Situated in the heart of Lake Erie, Pelee Island is Canada's southernmost point accessible to people. The island is home to a wide array of wildlife, from common to endangered species, and some found nowhere else in Canada. Pelee Island sits on the traditional territory of the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, as well as being the ancestral land of Caldwell First Nations. Prior to Europeans, the island was an archipelago connected by the swaying reeds of a shallow marsh. Home to countless waterfowl, the area proved ideal for hunting. The remains of this can be seen in the many hundreds of spearheads found amongst the former marsh. In 1788, the land was acquired by the governing body that would become Canada. Since then, the swaths of wetland were drained with a system of canals that redirected water back into the lake, exposing new land below. This new landscape, as well as alvars, have created a home for a number of species at risk. One of these is climbing prairie rose, distinguishable by two sets of 3 leaves on each branch. This plant makes use of the newly created edge habitats on the island. The alvar creates a home for a number of plants and animals. Perhaps most charismatic of all is the blue racer.
The blue racer has light to dark gray back coloration, and then on the sides they have a blue sheen or a blue tinge to them. They're one of the larger snakes we have in Ontario. They're actually the second largest. Up to 6 feet long. That's just an impressive animal to see any day of the week. They were extirpated from the mainland as recently as like 1983 because European settlers took over and changed the natural landscape into farm, agricultural lands, and urban areas. And so the blue racers lost their suitable habitat, couldn't live there anymore. Blue racers are dependent on open habitats such as savannas, prairies, and grasslands, alvars, that type of thing, because they need a lot of heat from the sun. They have a really high desired temperature, up around 30 degrees Celsius or higher, that they want to heat their body temperature up to before they can do their daily activities. So they really, really need areas that with full sun exposure. But enough of that habitat remains on Pelee Island that they still exist here in small numbers, but they're still here. And so what needs to be done for those areas to remain existent is have things like fires go through, or grazing, or mechanical removal. You can cut down the shrubs and the trees that come in. What we try and do is have conservation landowners perform those management tactics to keep those habitats available to the blue racer.
Aside from the blue racer, a number of other snakes reside on Pelee Island. One of which is the Lake Erie water snake. Only found on Lake Erie Islands and some shoreline, the Lake Erie water snake feeds primarily on invasive round gobies. This new food source has caused their numbers to grow. So much so, they are no longer considered endangered. The eastern fox snake can also be found on the island. More at home in marshes, the fox snake has adapted to the forests and alvars, often seeking shelter within cracks in the bedrock. Another creature that lives below the earth, which is rarely seen, the smallmouth salamander emerges on cool, rainy nights.
So we've been studying the smallmouth salamanders and the unisexual salamanders and blue-spotted salamanders here on Pelee Island since 2015. We're tracking their population size and trying to understand their genetic composition and their habitat needs. So we visit the island multiple times throughout the year to catch the animals at different parts of their life cycle. So in March we come when the salamanders are breeding, and we're here for 2 weeks. We catch the animals in the ponds, and then we can revisit the island in May, and that's when the animals are in their larval stage, and we can do larval surveys with dip nets. In July and August, the animals are starting to metamorphose, and the larvae are now turning into juvenile salamanders and leaving the ponds and moving into the woods, and we catch the animals then as well. We're hoping to better understand the population size of the animals, but also the things that we can do to help the animals. So that includes how we can construct new wetlands, how we can design them to maximize the number of salamanders that emerge successfully from those ponds. What kind of combination of terrestrial and aquatic habitat is needed to maximize the survival of these animals and to ensure that there's enough habitat for those animals to persist over the long term.
Reptiles and amphibians are some of the most threatened animals around the world. And by protecting important habitats on Pelee Island, we not only protect them, but a whole network of life. From the elusive gray fox, to the monarch butterfly, a bouquet of different plants, and of course, the birds.
Pelee Island is a great stopover point for migratory birds to rest and refuel as they head further north. The species at risk that we monitor are red-headed woodpecker, yellow-breasted chat, purple martin, and prothonotary warbler. The Pelee Island Bird Observatory helps monitor migratory birds by banding them, doing surveys across the island, breeding surveys, and also everyday surveys during banding season. All this data gets collected into a huge database that can be accessed across Canada. So it's super useful information to gather trends about bird populations over a long period of time.
Through research, preserving land, and managing habitats, conservation organizations have worked together to help keep Pelee Island a haven and an important stopover for Canada's wildlife.